Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the TSL4 It's going to be the second match of day number 4. Only 3 more best of 5s to go until we are done with the round of 32. Couple of surprises, a lot of crazy good games. And now we get the chance of seeing Nerchio go up against DarKFoRcE. This is one of those proving grounds for both players. Can Nerchio continue this trend of being one of the best foreign Zergs and maybe even elevating himself to a GSL status? Or is this going to be DarKFoRcE's chance to have a big breakout role?
I do love the actual good luck, have fun typing it out. You just don't see that very often these days. Up in the top left side, it is going to be Acer.Nerchio. And down the bottom right side, similarly, the same race as him. So it is going to be a ZVZ. It is going to be DarKFoRcE. DarKFoRcE is a player, as we were mentioning, who has been playing competitive games for a very, very long time. Whether it's StarCraft 2 or other RTSs, doesn't quite matter. But I think that definitely does give players a distinct advantage. I kind of remember when StarCraft 2 was first coming out, a lot of Warcraft 3 players were switching over. We had even Command & Conquer players, just people from everywhere. And a lot of people were asking, well, are they going to be able to compete with the players who had previously played StarCraft 1 as opposed to the other RTS games? And I think that these players have proven, yes, we can. It's more about the mindset, it's more about the practice, and it's more about the decision-making as opposed to how well you controlled vultures in StarCraft 1.
It is really true that there's that sort of needless bias at the start where people just said, well, I have decided that Brood War is the only skill set that matters. But actually, I'm really excited even players like Baby Knight coming from MOBA backgrounds, performing brilliantly. DarKFoRcE looks like he's going to be going for the fairly standard nowadays play of taking himself a hatch expand. The only real vulnerabilities it has is to around 6 to 8.5 pools. I say that because 9 pools are but 8 pools still kind of works. So like an 8.5 pool opening is quite nice. But Nerchio, look at this. Going for gas right away. He wants to put on pressure with speedlings ASAP.
And yeah, the hatchery going to be going down here for DarKFoRcE. Finally going to be getting his gas up here just a little bit. And day 9, any kind of basic predictions as far as how ZVZ has been panning out recently, and maybe how it's different compared to what players may be used to seeing in the past?
Well, the biggest thing of all, I would say, I'm going to emphasize 2 things. One, valuing speedlings over roaches in the early game is quite common, just due to the speed of Zerglings, the ability to counterattack, and the ability to overwhelm small segments of roaches that get out of line. And the second one would be the use of the Mutalist and Infestor layer tech. People are using Mutalist to control the map, or using the Infestors to get more expansions and faster tech up to Hive. Everything not along the vein of the Roach, I think, is the big developments that the matchup has seen.
And we do see the Zerglings have been moving out right now for Nerchio. And we do have 8 on the way here for DarKFoRcE, so he's definitely going to be able to hold this super, super easily. Zergling speed going to be on the way here for both players, going straight for the eggs. There's not a whole lot here that Nerchio can actually do, although with the 6lings he can put on a little bit of pressure, but he's going to quickly be overwhelmed. Might actually get surrounded here if he's not careful. Is trapped into the corner. Can't afford to really lose too many lings here, because you got to remember that in, say, a TVZ, the lings aren't nearly as important because the larva is just so, so precious. Because if you can make 1 extra drone, that can actually get you really far ahead in this matchup.
Now look at this. DarKFoRcE doesn't even have that far of a lag on his Zergling speed. He's really trying to get that ling speed up very quickly. But DarKFoRcE has a big divergence point, and there it looks like it's clear what he's going to do now. He builds a spine crawler. He's droning. The Baneling Nest is a defensive play. Nerchio, too, building a defensive Baneling Nest, though Nerchio can delay his Baneling Nest a little bit more. because he has speed a lot earlier.
And you got to remember as well that DarKFoRcE is going to be at a lower amount of workers as these waves kind of start pushing back and forth on who has more, but that's because he did spend more larva on the drone, so his drone timing is going to be just a couple of seconds behind each time. There's the defensive banelings on the way, and Nerchio going to poke up here, see exactly what's going on, and he's going to be like, well, this is very comparable because I myself almost have my baneling nest, so the only thing Nerchio has to watch out for is a big baneling timing, but since he was able to scout it, he realizes there is no such baneling timing because those units are not morphing at his base. Instead, they are morphing back at DarKFoRcE's base. He's going to push forward with that spine crawler, as this wouldn't be surprised if both players end up doing this. But I think a lot of this is going to come down to droning versus layer tech, which we do see DarKFoRcE getting that layer tech right now.
And see, the big thing is that if you go to the respective vision of each player, I mean, there's some skirmishes going on in the middle of the map, but look at Nerchio's vision. He has Overlords spread everywhere across the map. Look at DarKFoRcE's vision. Likewise, Overlords spread absolutely... Oh, nice baneling blast there. Just Overlords spread everywhere. As a result, neither player... Oh, that was an excellent detonation, actually killing a lot of the larvae there. But now neither player needs to worry that much about roaches because they can clearly see and have the time they need to stay alive should the opponent do that.
Yeah, and that's why you're seeing the layer tech here before the roach tech, as, yeah, Nerchio going to be following up with his own layer tech as well, and both players are actually continuing to drone here, so this is going to start transitioning kind of into the mid-game, and a defensive baneling there for both players cleaning up those Zerglings, so that should even up units lost. Yes, it's almost actually tied there. I think only one Zergling more has been lost, so both these players are actually feeling super, super comfortable right now because they were able to hold off the initial pokes in, which is a couple of units, and they both were able to do that, so it's going to come down to what build orders do they decide to go for. Right now it looks like Nerchio going to be getting a Roach Warren as opposed to DarKFoRcE's Spire here. And,
I love it.
I was going to ask you, Day9, what do you think about it, but you're already telling me.
Looks like we have a little bit of a skirmish in action going on, but again, Nerchio can rely on not that many units, just banelings and well-placed speedlings to deflect this attack. In Nerchio's position, he's favoring economy, and because he's spread himself out that thin, he has to get the roaches. He needs a good defensive answer. On the other hand, DarKFoRcE, he's staying all cramped up on two bases. He can easily rely on that gas, and he's going to be going for them mass Mutalisks, and look at this. Ooh, Burrow Speed Roach. Nerchio is going to try to do counterattacks to keep Mutalisks back.
Yeah, it's always an interesting dynamic, seeing the mass roach versus the mass muta, because the mutalisks aren't in an imminent threat of getting owned by an infestor, but at the same time, if they're forced to be used to defending the roaches, then they're not really being used at their full potential at all. Nerchio going to be morphing in an Overseer right here. He will have a pretty good idea of exactly what's going on. However, the Overseer has also been spotted, so it's not going to take DarKFoRcE by surprise. Might be able to position his queens very well to help defend that Spire from being spotted. Although Overseers do have a lot of HP and 1 armor, so should be able to scout a minor skirmish going on in the center here.
Ooh.
Does take out a nice chunk of lings right there, and it does look like Nerchio going to be going for the hatchery, realizing there's no banelings here, but there's just too many lings, plus the banelings do show up. The Overseer has spotted the Spire, and also the Mutalisk popping out right now. And so right now, what is Nerchio thinking, seeing mutas when he himself has roaches?
Well, in this position, it's going to be a lot of Spore Crawlers. You see the Spore Crawlers surging, but also the Roach count and Ling count is going up for Nerchio. His big tool is going to be the counter attack. So with this number of Mutalisks out right now, look at this. The Roach is moving across the map. All he needs is a little bit longer for speed to pop out. Those Mutalisks have to wail away at those Roaches to even pick off one, and it looks like the Queens, one Queen down, the second Queen might take some damage, but there's the Roach sprint now down to the south side of the map for Nerchio.
Gotta try and deal with that third base of DarKFoRcE, and again, DarKFoRcE is forced to retreat here with these mutas. This is not an ideal situation for him, as these roaches have so much HP. Of course, they have that 1 armor as well, so this third base is all but gone, as the roaches are going to be able to do just crazy damage. He does decide to split up a lot of these roaches to save them, and Burrow's right there to begin generating that HP. He knows he can still get the hatchery, though, with minimal units, but there is going to be a counterattack up to the top right side. This command has already been hit a little bit, and that does mean I think that this one will... Nope, there's the Zergling's going to be reinforcing that right now. And this shows you the power of the roaches. Even if they can't shoot air, they can take a lot of damage from these mutas.
Gosh, what a nice attempted counterattack by DarKFoRcE. Could have been a tremendous swing in momentum. Losing his third, but picking off the Roaching player's third. Now it looks like both players are actually getting up their infestation pit. There's the final unburrow from Nerchio, and oh, it looks like the Lings are going to catch this little Roach pack off guard. Yep,
the Mutalisk's going to be able to clean this up as well, and it does look like the Roach is going to get surrounded here. They've got nowhere to go. May just have to engage here. no, with the burrow, that's not going to be enough. Overseer spots everything going on, so decides to at least kill off a couple of lings while he still can. But I think killing off that expansion is going to be at least worth losing a couple of roaches, taking out his own rocks up here in the northern side to just free up that expansion. Because you got to remember, well, he left a lot of Zerglings down here to defend this. I think one would have been okay, but Nerchio down the bottom left side is delaying the expansion.
Oh, huge counterattack, swinging up into the main base. It looks like the Zerglings do manage to pierce their way all the way up into the main base. And at this point, this is an awkward spot to be in as DarKFoRcE. You're trying to find some vulnerability, but Nerchio has taken out the rocks. There's no real clear path to pierce in through. And finally, DarKFoRcE is able to retake his third expansion. All he can hope to do now is gain up map control by gobbling up Overlords.
Yeah, that's exactly what you do with the mutas at this point, where you realize I can't actually harass the main, natural, or even the third base, so might as well get full on map vision. Although, one thing to mention is that DarKFoRcE did lose a lot of Banelings in that attack. He tried to attack that third base, wasn't able to get any massive hits. Taking a look at the units here, 54 drones for Nerchio. That's going to put him at 10 ahead of DarKFoRcE right now. And especially when you're trying to power on Mutalisks or now switching to the Infestor tech, either way, you're going to need that third base. You're going to need those 10 extra drones. And so I feel like moving forward here that Nerchio's got to be feeling pretty confident. But DarKFoRcE now starting to get his roach count a little bit high as well. And he also has the +1 attack before his opponent's +1 even starts, and there is +2 on the way now for DarKFoRcE.
Yeah, this is one of the cool things about going Mutalist. You know you're eventually going to transition into Roaches or Ling Infestor Ultra, so you can start the upgrades early while the Mutalists are buying you tons of time. And Nerchio, we see, has clearly been on the back foot a little bit, but suddenly Nerchio's momentum time is now. We see 6 Infestors hatching. An attempted counterattack, gets just decimated from all angles. And at this point, it's a little unclear who does have the edge, but if you look at the Infestor count, that's generally the biggest indicator. We see a little bit of an Infestor lead for Nerchio right now, and he has 6 more about to pop out.
Yeah, that's going to push him way, way ahead in the Infestor count. The Roach count is very comparable. The only way he's really behind is in the upgrades, as his expansion has remained. One Mutalisk getting caught out of position there at that expansion. The Mutalisk, though, starting to become a little bit less and less relevant. Yes, they're still used to harass any sort of Roaches pushing out by themselves and clean up those Overlords, but that job has mostly been done. So if you're wondering why these Mutalisks are just sitting around, there's not a whole lot that they can actually do right now. You have the 4th base going to be going down here for DarKFoRcE, and that one is a little bit ahead of his opponent, as it looks like DarKFoRCE's Ling is going to be able to kill the drone on the right side, preventing that expansion from going down. But as you're mentioning, Day 9, I mean, it's kind of hard to tell who's in the lead right now, as Nerchio may have lost his timing to be able to punish his lead. He's still kind of ahead in Infestors.
This is kind of an interesting play that we're seeing out of Nerchio. He's actually going for a Hydralisk Den. This is kind of an uncommon way to do a timing push, but essentially you can do interesting plays where you build up money, do a push with Roaches, and replace the Roaches with Hydralisks. And then because your Infestor count was built up so high early on, you can end up doing the Hydra fungal combo where you just do maximum damage and the Roaches can't even shoot back. But this is another classic little counterplay, doing this burrow movement in the middle, but this is a big risk. If these Infestors get caught off guard or if there's an Overseer, it's going to be huge. And there we see another swell of a lot of Roaches coming into the backside. Nerchio doing it.
He's keeping them at the ramp here to try and intercept. He might be able to fungal all those Infestors on the ramp. Is
but
he does. He gets every single one. He's got to be able to clean these up, and fungals again to finish the job. Down go the Infestors, all exploding at the exact same time here, and was actually able to do it. Lots of losses going back and forth for both players, but I feel like Nerchio got to be way, way in the lead, sacrificing almost nothing to kill those Infestors. The Infestor hit squad has struck again, and he's going to be able to cut off that 4th base while having his own 4th base on the way. And there's the Overseer there trying to spot the Infestors. He's got to go straight for it with the Mutalisk here. The Fungal's got to delay it, but at what cost? He is going to end up losing a couple more Infestors, and they're still getting chased here. He's going to be able to turn the tides and even up that unit's loss here substantially. I thought maybe the game was going to be over, but it is just beginning, as even 2 more Infestors going to get taken out here. Where are those Hydras? Well, they're nowhere.
Got a fantastic play, honestly, from both players. Nerchio with the neat play, baiting the Infestors to come forward and nabbing every single one of them. But again, you're seeing the power of the Mutalist. Even with just a handful, suddenly the Infestors are easy to pick off. They're clean targets. But now that there's more Hydralisks popping in, this is suddenly going to start being more and more in Nerchio's favor. Nerchio actually spanning to both sides of the map. He's going for a counterattack based play. He wants to try to secure all these expansions that will open up opportunities for him to just crush these things from odd angles. And oh, this is the big misstep from Nerchio.
His reinforcements did get intercepted. And remember, he has not made any more infestors. He is just now making those, but if he stays on this ramp, he is going to get fungal. The infestor's getting in a position here.
Wow.
Can Nerchio actually do this? He's at 1-1. His opponent is at 2-0, so the upgrades are very comparable. But the fungal's going to be doing lots of damage, but there's a huge concave from Nerchio.
The concave is enormous, but the fungals are bigger. DarKFoRcE tips the tide in his favor. 175 supply to 147. Nerchio got a little bit over eager. There's even 2 units just doing damage at the right side. A fantastic counterattack there by Nerchio in the workers kill tab. We see not too many have gone down for either players. Only 13 workers killed in this whole game. Nerchio is banking on having that expansion up on the right to help him get the lead.
Right now, both players pretty high in supply. These Mutalisks are still in the game.
Gosh.
Going around and harassing everything. Could go for yet more infestors that are spawning here. The fungal's probably going to clean those up right now. But regardless, at this point, those Mutalisks have definitely paid for themselves. Now they're still softening those infestors here. And I think it's still going to come down to a lot of infestor play. But don't count out Nerchio just yet. Getting that Hydralisk count very high. We do see somehow 2 roaches slipping inside the main base here of Nerchio. Going to be going straight for those drones. And there's 2 roaches at the expansion as well. So Nerchio completely out of position to defend this, but is going to be taking some economic damage right now. But where's the defense for Nerchio as DarKFoRcE is going to be knocking at the front door?
I love this little tiny attacking by DarKFoRcE. The 2 roaches in the main still doing gigantic damage, pulling a lot of these units back. And there we see the attempted step forward. What's the infestor count look like? It's 11 for DarKFoRcE and only 4 for Nerchio. And it looks like DarKFoRcE is getting the better angles. DarKFoRcE with the Mutalisk opening. Oh no! He does get fungled on all of his own infestors, but this Mutalisk play allowed him to clean up all the infestors from Nerchio earlier on, and now DarKFoRcE is starting to take down the third.
The infestor's so low on HP. That's only a couple of Hydra shots away from dying. Here's the Hydra reinforcements. As you were mentioning, Day 9, they do so much damage versus roaches, but I don't know if he can afford to continue producing them as he has lost his 3rd base, which makes his 4th base even more vulnerable here. There's no defenses, only 1 Spore Crawler. That's not going to cut it here as he is now marching down there. Can he get enough units here to actually push back out and get himself back in this game? Because if he doesn't, it's going to be 5 bases versus 2 bases, and none of those bases are even really mining right here. So it does look like DarKFoRcE is going to be able to seal this out because it's almost 100 supply, no, over 100 supply now. Lead for him, even though Hydras are pretty good in ZVZ. They're not going to be good enough here to hold this off, and it does look like DarKFoRcE going to be able to do it, and there's the G.